This video is a little different because we're not talking about the LS this time. This is another little project I'm working on. If any of you out there are aware of the home arcades that people are building, or if you're familiar with Arcade 1UP, they build a lot of smaller classic video game cabinets and such. They make like the 3/4 size cabinet. Some of them will have a single game. Some of them will have a multiple of games on there. So if you're not familiar with that, just arcade1up.com. Just kind of look at what they got. They come up with new games every year. But if you're really into arcades and arcade games, especially the classic ones, you know, like the Pac-Man stuff, the stuff from the 80s and whatnot, I do have the Arcade 1UP Partycade that has like 8 games in it. The Pac-Man version, plus it's got Galaxian and Galaga. And I think there's like 3 versions of Pac-Man on there. But this one is a cabinet that I purchased from, I think it's Arcade Double Up, arcadedoubleup.com. There's a YouTube guy that's called Double D Guitar that does these, because he also does the woodworking. So I purchased this cabinet from him. Pretty reasonable, you know, with shipping. It came to under $200. If you're really good with woodworking and know the dimensions, you could probably build one for, you know, yourself for half, but I'm not good at that. So basically what he does is that he has 2 versions. The first version he has is the leftovers kit that he talks about, and that's if you take an Arcade 1UP 3/4 size, which is the largest cabinet they have, which is basically 3/4 the size of a full-size arcade game you would see, you know, in the arcades. So he makes a kit similar to this that's missing the marquee area, the control pad here. I think those are the 2 things that he's missing. He doesn't have the back bracket for the monitor, which I'll get into in a second. So on the leftovers kit, it's a little less. So if you have parts left over from your 3/4 size, you know, if you upgraded your cabinet or switched something out, and you don't have a use for the control deck or the marquee, then you can take those parts and put them in the leftovers kit. Well, then he has the Room for Pi kit, which is this one. Now, what Pi is, if you're familiar with that stuff, is the Raspberry Pi. It's kind of like a board. It's basically like a little computer. A lot of people use it for different things. You can run different softwares on it for different controllers. But one thing you can do with that board is get one of the game emulators so that you can play a lot of the games from, you know, like the Nintendo and the Segas, stuff like that. You can do that and then get the ROMs for them, which are the games themselves. So depending on how good you are at that, you could go that route. And then you got to buy all of the parts to go with it, like the monitor, all the buttons and the control stick. This one has the 4-button area for a joystick and then a trackball. I went with that route because the setup I have is going to have Centipede on it, and I want to use the trackball instead of having to use the joystick. So his option is like 4 different decks you can get. Then, of course, you got to buy the parts, and that's a different thing. So there's a few like retro arcade websites that will sell you basically anything you need to build your own home arcade, which I've already done. So I went with the 60-in-1 unit, which I like because it has most of the classic arcade games, like I said, from mostly the 80s. And it's all on one circuit board. So you don't have to do anything more than just get the circuit board, get your buttons, your joystick, what have you, the speakers. You'll need a power supply for the back. You'll need let's see, depending on what monitor you use, if you can get a hold of one of these older Dell, I think this is a 19-inch. This cabinet was made primarily for the 17, so as you can see, the 19 will fit, but don't go any bigger than that. And if you can find the older Dell monitors, that these are the LCD ones versus the LED ones. There's just the 16-in-1 boards and stuff like that. I think they're more or less designed around these older monitors, because the 16-in-1 board I think has been around for about 10 years. So back when these monitors were king. So if you can still find one of these monitors and get one 17 or an 18 Dell, go around to the back. Not sure, we'll see down in here where the model number is. It's kind of hiding down there, but he does give you the cross member that you can attach the screws to hold the monitor in, and the L brackets. He'll give you the screws to go through the bracket into the monitor, because the ones that are on there are too short, because they were meant for the bracket that Dell has for the stand. So, which is good. He gave you the right size screws for the bracket there. But these monitors, like I said, I bought this one at a local computer store that just sells old computer parts and new stuff. A few years ago, you could find these monitors pretty easily. eBay still has them, but the prices have kind of gone up in the last few years, because these are becoming, I think, more scarce than they have been. So I think this one for me was $35. I've seen some on eBay, exact same. You might get it for 80, 100, and a little bit more. And then you got to ship the thing to you. So if you can find one locally, and if you're going to do one of these, look locally. Pawn stores, local computer, parts places like that just sell used old parts. Maybe even try any of the local market places, like Facebook Market. See, because I did see a few of them on there, but 35 was still the cheapest. I just happened to run into this one. It was the only one they had left. So the only thing that I'll have to do when I'm done finishing this is make a bezel for it. You can search online. There's some companies that will do these kits as well, and they'll do a bezel, but their cost is kind of high, I think, for what you're getting, and all you need is really just a piece of panel, some little, even the thin stuff. Just cut an opening for the screen. Some people will put like little Velcro strips on the sides to hold it in. I mean, it just has to stay there just to cover up the gap between the screen and the shell. But my project today is to paint this. I'm only going to paint the sides, the speaker bottom at the bottom, speaker panel, and of course the sides. I have a decal coming for the control deck, and on the RK Double Up website, he has a link to another company that does like vinyl stickers that he works with, and they have custom made some stickers, and they have different designs. So depending on what it is that you are interested in, that they may have. The marquee, you can get a sticker for it. I went with a different company that has a lighted marquee. It's basically still a sticker, but it's got a surround that they give you the light to put on it, so that it'll just plug it in behind everything with the adapter and everything. So it'll be a lighted marquee on this one. Like I said, I have to make the bezel, which I'll get to you later once I kind of get everything else sorted, and I got all my buttons. I got everything I need. So I said most of it, there's a couple of places online you can look for retro arcades type of stuff, and they'll sell you all the parts. And eBay's another place that you'll find it all. But I just kind of wanted to kind of show you this little project I'm working on. And we'll come back when I'm finished and hopefully up and running. But like I said, the rkdoubleUp.com, if you're interested in doing something like that. By the time you source all the parts and get the pieces, you could be looking at, probably $300 altogether, maybe, depending on where you get your parts. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Like I said, it depends on what you've got. The monitor is a tricky part. If you can get one for $35 like this one, go for it. 17-inch or a 19-inch. The older Dells, it's not, the 16:9 screens. I think it's a 3x. Is it the? I forgot what size they had before that. So it's not a widescreen, because like I said, a lot of the new monitors, the software that runs the video on those boards can be off on these LCD LED screens. So, but I've seen some people do it, but this is the kind of the way that most people will do it online, because it works out the best. Anyway, we'll end it here, and then we'll come back when I've got it all finished and see how it looks. But I just want to give you a show. Well, there's the finished product of my 16-in-1 arcade. Like I said, I painted the cabinet. I'm still waiting on the decal for the deck here, but I got the joystick, 4 buttons, and then the trackball. The 60-in-1 system, if you're not familiar with it, it's a PCB board that's got the 60 classic games on it. So if you look at, when you have your select screen, you just kind of rotate through. I put the trackball on it because it does have Centipede on it, which is one of my favorite games. Trying to find out where it is. There's Frogger, which is another good one. It's got different Pac-Man versions. It's got Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. There's like 60 different games in here. Most of them are the classics, from the 80s and whatnot. There are some games on there I never heard of, but some of you may have. But anyway, I just wanted to show you this. I had bought the Arcade 1-Up Partycade that came out not that long ago, which is right there. But it didn't have like Donkey Kong, and Burger Time was another one that was one of my favorites, and that's in here as well. It's got 1943, a couple different versions. Trying to find, got Galaxian, Galaga. I'm trying to find where the other one, Donkey Kong 3, and Burger Time. So let me just start that real quick here. So this was always one of my favorite games. I think it was because of the little music that played when he is walking. But anyways, the light up marquee. On top of there is the speaker amplifier. It's got the volume control. The 2 speakers are on the bottom plate there, kind of hiding down in there. The kit all together, you buy the cabinet from the one person online that builds these. There's probably other people that build them. Then you buy all the components from a different place. I think it's DIY Arcade. I'm not sure. I'll link it down below if anybody's interested in doing one of these. The molding, I just put the vinyl tape, but it doesn't really stick very well. So I may come up with something else later. Could use the T-molding, but I didn't really have the time to mess with that, and I don't have a router anyway. Like I said, the keypad, the deck here, that's basically everything that's down in there. All the wiring, the PCB board is back here, that's blinking. The speakers, but it's a pretty good little deal. Like I said, it's just something good to have. I just wanted to show it to you guys, even though it's not a Lexus thing, but my Pac-Man stool I bought. And I'll put it over there next to the rest of that. There's my Kansas City Royals champion flag. Hopefully we get baseball again correctly this summer and not the short version. But anyway, it's all painted black, the tape. Between painting it and putting it together, it took me a few hours yesterday to put it together. The only thing I didn't buy was the bezel that goes around in the plexiglass. You can get those from different vendors, but the guy that has some for sale was back ordered, and it's about 90 bucks for the way he does it. So I just kind of followed the same instructions and bought the plexiglass, which is probably around $13 at Lowe's. The piece of wood trim, just I think it's Luan, I think it's a Luan board. I can't remember the name of that stuff. The real thin board. It works well. Use some Velcro tape around the edges of the monitor and just press that onto it. Just use a couple screws to keep the plexiglass onto the wood trim. That's about what you'd get. I mean, mine looks a little rougher in some areas, but you know, for what it's doing, it works fine for me. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you. If you guys are interested in this, as I said, there's some links down below, or you can just ask me a question about it. Thanks.